This is TWiT.
The Lunar Landing Day Initiative. What is it? How did it come about? Tell us the story.
Even though they're my employees, and even though they know I'm so passionate about space, I walked into my office on July 20th, 2023, and I said, "Hey, team, what happened on this day in history?" And there was silence. Nobody knew. Like, no, it's me asking you. Really? July 20th, 1969. Nobody knew. And since then, I've asked lots of people, and nobody really remembers that. Now, some people do remember once I remind them that that was the day that humans landed on the moon for the first time. And they say, "Oh, now I remember that." I thought that was sad. I thought that was tragic. We all ought to know that. We all ought to celebrate that every year. One of the greatest accomplishments in human history, certainly one of the great unifying moments in American history, the decade that we made that happen. We ought to celebrate that. We need more things that are positive news these days, especially. So that prompted me to start thinking about how we could do that, and I launched the campaign. And we've been going strong every day for 2 years since.
Yeah, and I guess so you mentioned it's been going on for 2 years, Bob. I'm just curious, what's your like end goal? Do you want it to be a national holiday? Is that what we should do? Right? Is have a national, like an Apollo 11 holiday? I'm all for extra holidays in July, by the way.
Absolutely right. So this is the drive. Lunar Landing Day will be a new federal holiday. There are 11 currently on the calendar that are recognized as official holidays, meaning a federal holiday. And this will be a new federal holiday. We all ought to celebrate that. And so that is the charge. That is what our now ever-growing national coalition is working hard towards. We made great progress, and we work on this every day.
That's pretty cool. Now, can you tell me, I mean, you talked about what happened at the office, but was it really just that, or was it a larger sense of just understanding, what this meant to U.S. history? Because I was watching too, a little older than you, but it was such a remarkable moment, and I think it was surprised. I think 11 or something, but even then I realized what a big turning point this was, matched only by watching Viking 1. The first images of Viking 1, but Apollo 11 is such a special place in our memories.
Right. So I was a history major in college. So yes, I absolutely appreciate the historical context. This was, of course, the height of the Cold War. This had major implications in that regard. This was a triumph of technology, developing all the technology that we didn't even have when JFK gave his initial address, joint session of Congress in 61, just 3 weeks after the first suborbital flight of Al Shepard. And to pull this off was really amazing. So yeah, this is very important. This was the first time that humans stepped on another celestial body. This was 410,000 people in all 50 states working to make it happen. This was so important, and we really ought to honor it and cherish it and promote it. So we need to celebrate that, and we also need to promote interest in STEM education for the next generation, which we can talk a little bit more about as one facet of this whole campaign.
Yeah, I do want to talk more about that. Just kind of touching on what you said, though. I learned about you from Jerry Griffin because I'm working on a project with him. But interviewing him and a number of other people, both astronauts and folks who are working in mission control and elsewhere through the space age and during that period, between 1968 and 1972, the one thing I found that I was impressed with and felt, and that most of them kind of agreed with, was the further away I get from those events of the space race, the more astonished I am that it worked. Because when you think about this technology, it was baselined in the mid 60s, which means that most of it was kind of growing out of the 1950s. We were just getting integrated circuits. We were just getting transistors. We were just getting many things that would make this work. And then some of it was not all that up to date. I'm sure you've seen the inertial guide, what was it, the IUS, the computer on the Saturn V and that upper adapter ring,
right,
where instead of looking like a briefcase like it does on the command and lunar modules, it looks like you could park a compact car inside of it. So you look at this technology and you think they went all the way to the moon, supported these guys, on the way down there, all the way back, managed to rescue Apollo 13. It just boggles my mind by today's standards.
That's really astonishing, isn't it? To think, I mean, we've all heard many people tell us this, but, the amount of computing power we have in our wristwatches, it is an order of magnitude more than they had in the entire Apollo spacecraft. It's really astonishing. We didn't even have the technology built when we started the campaign to make it happen. So we had to develop the technology, orbital mechanics, and everything else that went into that, design the spacesuits. It is astonishing.
It is. And actually, that's an interesting quote. You said, the watch or the iPhone having more computing power than the Apollo or NASA. I actually was corrected. I was doing a talk with Alan Stern, and I used that quote, and he turned to me and said, actually, that phone you just held up has more computing power than the planet Earth did. Which I was pretty remarkable.